Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mindful Book Critic. Today, we're going to be discussing Unwinding Anxiety by Dr. Judson Brewer. His book is highly scientific based on research. He said in his book that he scienced the shit out of anxiety, which I thought was a fun way to explain a complex topic that affects a lot of people. Before we get into his discoveries, I want to talk about the impression that I had from this book. One of the things that really gave me an aha moment was when he talked about people having addictions. For most of my life, I'm like, I don't have any addictions. I'm not a heavy drinker, don't do drugs or nothing like that. So I'm like, I don't have any addictions. I was wrong. He really made it clear in this book. And I happened to listen to this book on Audible because that's one of the best ways and easiest ways for me to consume books on my commute. If you're interested in this book, by the way, you can pick up this book on my website using the Audible link or through Bookshop. I'll post those links in the show notes so that it's easily reachable. One of the discoveries I had was about addictions. I didn't think that would apply to me, but boy, was I wrong, because he said even the habit of worrying can be an addiction because it's something you do over and over again. He explains further why we do that, why anxiety happens, and he really takes that concept apart in terms of the addiction. But that was a real aha moment that probably hit me around chapter 1 or 2. It's like, wait a minute, I need to listen to this book a little more closely. If you are someone who has anxiety, he explained that people have a range of anxiety from general anxiety disorder up to having clinical anxiety. That was one concept that really stood out to me. This realization that everything from scrolling on your phone, things that you think are pretty innocent, buying shoes. Do you ever see those people that have dozens and dozens of sneakers or heels or whatever the thing is? It could be your makeup, whatever the things are that matter to you. Even those things that we tend to collect, our habits, can be forms of addiction. Then he really pulls the covers back and explains why we're doing that. So let's talk about that a little bit more. He explains something in a concept called the habit, the habit. And that's whenever you have a trigger, something that makes you worry. Then you have a fear, like understanding that you worry, the outcome of the worry is that you may feel there's a reward for it. It's not just an emotion, but a habit built from reinforcing the trigger over and over. When X happens, I tend to do Y, and the result is this. When my kids spill the milk, I tend to get frustrated because I want that sense of orderliness in the house. Or if you get stressed and you need to have a piece of chocolate, he talked about using chocolate as a way to cope with stress. You instantly get that reward. The chocolate makes me happy. Chocolate feels good. And that becomes a habit. He recommends that we sit down and map out our habit loops, or find out what you tend to do over and over again. Then break down why you do that. There's some reward that we're getting out of either worrying, chocolate, ice cream, buying the latest sneakers or the latest video game. There's some reward that you are receiving, is what Dr. Brewer explains in his book. He did a lot of research around this information. For example, someone was a smoker. They were able to quit. Another example is someone needed to lose weight, and over time, I think there was a person who had a addiction to drinking, and he was overweight. In the story, in the book, that he was overweight and drank quite a bit as a result of being stressed about his business. That was his coping mechanism. Over time, he noticed it, got curious about it. He said, that doesn't really work for me. It's not really giving me what I thought it was going to be giving me. It's not giving the reward that I'm looking for. So little by little, over time, after examining the outcomes, each time he would drink or indulge in some addictive behavior, he was able to re-examine and make different choices due to seeing the reward is not what he wanted. By repeating the behavior of looking at the behavior that wasn't desirable, he was able to make changes, lose weight, reduce drinking. That was one successful outcome. This is through mapping. You can map your habit loops. You can do a mental map of them as well and reevaluate the reward system that you're associating with that action or outcome. Another key point that Dr. Brewer brought was that he used mindfulness, that act of observing how you feel about a behavior or an outcome, seeing how it feels in your body. Not necessarily, I'm going to stop eating or stop drinking, but more so being like, I'm going to let it sit with me. I'm going to make the observation without judging myself. And that's the main thing in terms of letting go of behavior that we don't find desirable about ourselves. He even mentioned in the book that the judgment about it leads to repetition. I feel bad because I do this, so I do this because I feel bad. That's another way to continue that cycle. Using mindfulness, we make an observation without going down the rabbit hole of judgment, is making ourselves feel worse about it, just allowing the cycle to complete. You observe, the next time it happens, you're more mindful at the time that cycle repeats. So it actually does work over time. You think that, oh, I'll never change. I love chocolate and I will always love chocolate. They talked about an experiment with a chocolate bar in the book. One of the experiments he ran was he asked people what was their favorite chocolate bar. They get the person little bits at a time and said, you can have as much as you want. And at first, the people were like, love it. They marked it a 10 out of 10. And they're like, yeah, great. I want some more. Great. I want some more. And then over time, it went down to 5. And then after a while, they said, I don't want any more. Even though it's their favorite chocolate bar, they were able to be more mindful and like, after a while, I don't want this favorite chocolate or this favorite thing. I don't want any more of that. After more than satisfying that need. Also, they promoted the RAIN technique. If you've been with Mindful Book Critic for a while, we talked about that on this channel. That is one of the techniques that we reviewed from Tara Brock in the book Radical Acceptance. Recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. Just be curious, to be open about the behavior. Explore with more compassion and curiosity. Notice how it feels and approach it with more kindness. If there's a behavior that you want to change, especially in addiction, scrolling too much on TikTok or YouTube or too much TV. There's so many ways that addictions creep in. So being more kind about it. I'm going to maybe reduce by 5% this week and next week by 10%. Just have a loving approach to yourself. What can you do that will allow you to be kind and loving to yourself and supportive of yourself? That attitude will go a very long way. It falls very much in line with mindfulness. That's one of the things I really liked about this book, even though it is backed by clinical studies with evidence. It incorporated mindfulness, the RAIN technique, many of the tools that we talk about here at Mindful Book Critic. So it's absolutely an amazing book. Many people were able to reduce some of their behaviors by, I think it said 67% of people in the study found solutions for applying these techniques. Mindfulness is really the way to go. You can continue to find more success, acceptance, and some level of joy and happiness if we accept ourselves, explore where we need to explore, and become curious as we move along that path. But yeah, this is great. Speaking of techniques, I think that sound healing would help those trying to explore solutions within themselves. Those vibrations focus on the physical body, which can also break up mental moving addictions and moving that energy throughout. The frequencies create resonance in your body and relieve emotional and mental pressure. So that's why resetting with sound healing, I'm a big proponent of that as well. Come check out our sound healing sessions on Sunday morning on TikTok at 10 a.m. just go over to Mindful Book Critic and you'll find us. Overall, I would say this book is a really wonderful book. It explains very deeply everything from what are addictions, to think about drugs, and maybe you might think about if someone has a drinking problem, but it's not obvious to think about. Maybe I have an addiction to chocolate or collecting sneakers. A lot of people can fall into that category. If you're someone that falls into the category of or not have identified your own personal addictions, I think this is an excellent book to start with. And if you are thinking of how can I break a habit of something I've been doing for so long? What about that morning cup of coffee? I'm guilty right here. How can I break that addiction? This is a good book to explore if you're looking for something like that. Try mindfulness. Try the techniques in this book. And the title is Unwinding Anxiety by Dr. Jud Brewer. I highly recommend if you're driving or commuting to work on a train or bus. This is a good time to grab an Audible and take advantage of our free Audible trial, which you can find on Mindful Book Critic, and read this book. Take a listen and let us know what you thought. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and we'll be back next week.